SPL here in week 2. We're in Europe today. It's Finch and Tolly on the desk as well, and we are just about to move into NRG up against Obey after a very strong performance from Dignitas. And I think that performance, Tolly, really puts an extra premium on this set now. If you want to keep up with Dig, you got to win this set, whichever one of these teams you are.
And if you're NRG, you have to be able to bounce back because they lost their previous set against Dignitas and Rival. Obey Alliance thus far having great success beating out SK and Rival.
And even though things might be a little bit difficult for our players right now, things couldn't be easier for you folks at home. Would like to announce that we do have that Mixer account linking ready to go for you. That way you can grab that SPL Paloma. All you have to do is go to esports.smitegame.com, get that account link set up, and that way you can get those in-stream rewards.
Just being able to get some benefits as well from watching exclusively through Mixer.
That's right. I believe before we were doing, you had to, put those codes in game, and sometimes if you weren't around, you couldn't always make the most of it. Now, as long as you're able to be in the stream, even if you can't have that in-game client open, you should be able to benefit by getting some of those cool in-stream rewards like that SPL Bologna. I know that y'all are big fans of it. I don't know why, but y'all love it, so now you get to have it.
And I think we saw a little bit of Bologna action last week. Not necessarily SPL, but in different regions, in different console potentially as well. And maybe we'll see it some more in
good chance. I think there's a good chance that we'll see her at least when we get to 516, right? And Berserker Shield comes in and you get a little bit of love going to our auto attack warriors. But that's for another week, totally. We still got to worry about this week here in front of us. In particular, NRG up against Obey. And this matchup, I think I might have picked Obey even if they hadn't been looking this strong already, because they've just been, they've just been showing up against NRG.
It has been the case thus far out of the spring set. The very first one in about week 2, it was NRG taking this set. But then week 5, NRG lost that set. It was Obey winning it 2-1. And then in the summertime, NRG lost both of their sets to Obey Alliance. Even though NRG is more stacked on paper, more stacked in their achievements, Obey seemed to have NRG's number online.
And I think that it wasn't that maybe their only losses in summer as well was just to Obey. They looked like they were beating nearly everybody else. I mean, this NRG roster, I don't know what it is, but sometimes someone out there they just have your number. They just have your card. Obey Alliance, it feels like they just step up a little bit more up against NRG. And now they're already stepping up. They already look good against everyone else. So this is an important set if you're an NRG fan. They just got to win it.
And if you're Obey Alliance, you're definitely rooting for them again here, because when you have a start like this, when you're a team that's like sitting around that number 3, number 4 spot consistently, this is your time to shine, especially heading into the most important split of the year, the fall split.
And for me, the big test for Obey isn't just so much can they win, it's consistency, right? They've struggled in spring and summer. Now to kind of show they really are that 1 or 2 or 3 team in Europe, they've got to show they can consistently beat the best. And that's what this NRG set lets them show. It's not just a strong week 1, we can be strong this whole split.
And it's going to be important to see how iRaffer and the boys just kind of managed to do it. And I think that's the kryptonite that allows Obey to find these victories. The former NRG member and captain iRaffer.
In that support there for him, looking strong as always. We'll go ahead and take a look at the picks and bans here for NRG up against Obey Alliance. And it looks like NRG going to be that first pick selection. We saw some curious choices, I feel like, in the picks and ban last time. First pick allows you to be able to get, kind of those your pick of the leftovers from those real top 5 picks. You shouldn't always be able to come back and grab the other 3 as well, but we'll see if NRG are going to be able to come out looking that good too.
NRG don't want the Baron right away. When they locked it in, I think in the first week against Rival, first they ran it against on EmilZy, then they ran it onto maniaKK. They didn't have the most success, so if you can't play it, just ban it away.
They are going to take that one out. Also, going to select or ban away the Chang'e. That one feels like a bit throwaway. It is a strong one. Ataraxia does like to play it, but maybe not up there with the Freyas right now that are considered so strong. Not like the Ramas, the Athenas, those picks that we often see get banned away. Obey, though, they're going to turn towards the Chronos. Not going to let emilitoo pilot that and the Naja.
Well, it's either going to be emilitoo or Yammyn as well. Both of those players really liking their magical hunters from time to time. And Chronos is not a very hot pick right now, but it's a very situational pick that NRG can bring back from time to time.
NRG valuing the Chernobog over the Freya here for that first pick selection, totally. So they will get that extra rotational ability to help them out, but Obey are going to match that with the Athena and get that huge burst potential from the Freya.
And Freya flexible between jungle, between middle, between hunter as well. It's difficult to know where Obey is going to lock in this Freya, so still a lot of just confusion up in the sky, especially when they're still the last pick.
That's right. Even the Athena could potentially have some flex if they wanted to. We've seen Athena's in the jungle as well, so maybe NRG can't be certain of where those Obey picks are going, but I can be pretty certain about where that Serqet is going. That one's got adapting written all over it. But totally, is the Nuwa Chernobog as clear as it seems? We've seen a little bit of Nuwa ADC.
That's right. emilitoo likes to pilot this god, and knowing how much of a threat Nuwa is in the late game with the fire shards, once you get like 4 items or deeper into the build, that's when Nuwa really shines. You get your clay golems a little bit more ranks, more magical protection shredding, and as a result, whoever gets, taunted or just set up by you, emilitoo's going to blow them up.
Very, very quickly. Nuwa has the potential to delete you rather quickly, but Rom coming in for Obey. And Arco just made quite the campaign speech for Rom, didn't he? In that last set, looked very, very strong on it. So let's see if that same thing can happen from Ataraxia here, if they do want to put that Rom over into the Hunter role. I imagine so. But this gives them a nice bit of semi-global presence, right? The Athena literally can be a defender of Olympus, and even Rom can make those half rotations with his ultimate.
It's just all the late game out of Obey Alliance. That was their first 3 picks. They still have a lot of flexibility with what other kind of crowd control that they want to do for potentially Xaliea. Knowing him, he could play Guardians, he can play Mages, he could play Assassins or Warriors. So it's going to be the Sobek for now. Still a little confusion as to where this Athena-Sobek combo is headed.
Yeah, it's not all black and white, but certainly that Sobek could be strong over there in the solo lane as Chang'e comes in for NRG to add a little bit of sustain, add some control. So they don't have a true, it feels like, hard tank on this team, right? No Guardians. They've got the Amaterasu and the Chang'e to sort of kind of curb that, I feel.
2 hybrid utility characters. Amaterasu providing either the movement speed or the power, and then you got the sustain and the crazy setup with the Wax and Moon from Chang'e. I think maniaKK should be able to hold his own whether or not he's up against this Erlang, Sobek, or Athena.
And it's still a bit of a flex potential. This does make me think probably we'll see the Erlang in the jungle here. Totally, I certainly want to hear your thoughts on that one, but it's a bit up in the air. You can't say for sure where anything's going with Obey. What about you at home? Is this enough to win you over? Can Obey keep looking good up against NRG, or are NRG going to throw on the brakes and finally win some games here?
I'm calling it now. Erlang Shen is going to the support. iRaffer's going to play Erlang Shen. Twig is going to play the Athena, and Sobek's going in the solo lane.
That's a good point. iRaffer doesn't love to always play the traditional stuff, does he? The Erlang Shen certainly gives him the opportunity to play this one aggressively if that's going to be the call from him. But we don't have to speculate any further here, Tully. We can go ahead and get it over to the casters and get into the action.
Thanks a lot, boys. NRG and Obey Alliance getting ready to do their thing right here. And as we get adjusted to what's going on here, you got to look at Yammyn in the middle lane on the Chernobog. I mean, this guy has been out of control, not just this player, but also this pick has been out of control pretty much for the entirety of what we've seen going on.
But to be fair, so has the Freya, the PrettyPriMe has been playing. That's been out of control in its own right in the mid lane, specifically for Obey Alliance. You heard them talk about it on the desk. This is a huge game for Obey and for NRG. And I think this is the perfect spot to look. Which mid laner is going to get off to a better start? Because both of these gods, once they get on a roll, are incredibly difficult, if it's even possible to stop them.
Here's the thing, though. Like, yes, absolutely, PrettyPriMe on the Freya. She's been out of control. But, I mean, that's just about sort of a numbers situation. At the moment, Freya's kind of nuts, and on live, the patch was today, she's going to be adjusted. Real piff, Yammyn on this Chernobog, I mean, the character's kit. Having a hunter that is globally available to any team fight that he's invited to or not invited to, he could just crash the party. That's really the scary point for me because, I mean, you can change those numbers up, down, left, right. He's still going to fly to the right side of the map after hanging out on the left.
Yes, but so what should Obey Alliance do about that? I'd say take the fight to him in the mid lane. You can fight around your best player then in PrettyPriMe. You can fight around your best god selection in Freya. You could fight around where that Chernobog ultimate is going to be very little impact, if at all. A lot of times Chernobogs, if the fight is on them, can't really do anything about it. So yes, Into Darkness is a great dash. It gets you out of combat. It removes that damage from you, all that kind of good stuff. But at the end of the day, if you still try and force it in the mid lane, you're going to have a lot more success.
Completely agree with you on that one. And PrettyPriMe, this is a guy that excels at the traditional mages. And I sat on the desk last week and I said, you know what, Taco? I'm not sure about PrettyPriMe on this Freya. You know, I like him so much better on the Vulcans and the Zeuses and the regular mages in the world. And Prime heard me from Sweden, and he said he doesn't really get that excited. He was just like, you are wrong. And then he completely proved me wrong. He had maybe 2 or 3 separate triple kills in that game, out of control. And so it's very exciting for me as an Obey fan to see PrettyPriMe sort of, one, expand the god pool in the sense of different elements of gods, and 2, be successful for an Obey team that has not seen much success in 2018.
No, and neither is PrettyPriMe in particular. It's not like he's been killing the game and everyone else has kind of been letting them down. It's been lackluster from him and from Obey Alliance, and it's no coincidence to me that as soon as Obey starts prioritizing Prime and what they're picking for him, picking their whole comp around it, we're going to first pick this for you and you're just going to win the game for us. But they're actually starting to win the game off of it. It's not a coincidence.
Which I'm very happy about, because it seems like, as iRaffer gets beat up just a little bit, I don't think they're going to follow this one. It seems like that Obey has just had an identity crisis, to quote Thrice. emilZy in some trouble here. He's going to wiggle his way on out. Because I've noted in Season 5 that the successful teams, and even towards the end of Season 4, the successful teams were the ones that played their own game, meta be damned almost, right? And there's Freya. And understanding what you're good at is a big part of finding success in the pro league.
You can't just load in and out-smite game people anymore. I really don't think that's a thing in the SPL anymore. You have to come in with a dedicated plan, one that takes into account the enemy team's dedicated plan, and figure out how you're going to win that game. It's not just loading up and pressing your buttons better anymore. And Obey has always been on the forefront of that train. I do think that this sort of adjustment to how the game is played isn't new to them. I think that they just didn't do a good enough job of understanding what their game plan was and what the enemy team's game plan was, and then also pressing their buttons well enough on top of all of those things in order to find victories here in Season 5. I think that this is a team that is capable of coming up with their own ideas and how this will work for them and how they will find victories, but it just hasn't quite clicked. Just because you understand what you need to do doesn't mean you can actually do it all the time.
For me, I think it was Obey trying too hard to identify a new identity. Because I spoke to these guys in the spring split, and they said, look, one of our go-to strategies is always just feed the Swede. Make sure that PrettyPriMe is able to get fat and do his thing for the middle lane. But they were also trying to entertain and try to figure out other strategies, this, that, or a third. One is good enough. All you need is PrettyPriMe to sort of be this guy. And what it seemed like for the spring and summer is that they understood that that was one of their go-to strategies, but they were trying to fill the quiver with all these other options. Now with the fall split, they were like, look, this is the one that really holds all the marbles. We've got to play our best for this split, so we're just going to play our best strategy, which is make sure PrettyPriMe gets ahead and is successful. And lo and behold, they're winning more often.
It sucks for Obey fans that they had a rough spring and summer. There's no doubt. But these guys have been around long enough. The whole team is full of veterans that understand that. Does it suck if you don't win in spring and summer? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to lose some fans. You're going to have some frustrated voices. You might have some internal struggles because of it. But all sins are forgiven if you win in fall. That's all. That's all that matters. You pay your penance in fall, and I think that this is a whole nother level of concentration for this squad now that they know that they're out of chances.
Xaliea is not a guy that really likes to lose either. We've, it's none too secret that his previous teams were very good when they were winning, and then when they were losing, he was, not exactly #1 guy to be around. And so here, for the reason I bring that up is much less the negative and more the positive of this is time to go, guys. And I think that this is going to be the split where Xaliea really earns his money for Obey. That's left side. There's a call to look for iRaffer. Takes a little bit of poke. Yammyn's going to close the distance, deal the damage as well. Here comes help from the zigzag. iRaffer is gone with the wind. And another tale he will tell.
Adapting just couldn't get a rage in time to use that ultimate. I think if he applies Last Breath to iRaffer, you add in the damage from emilitoo's Fire Shards, that's likely first blood for NRG, but the lack of Blink means that Adapting couldn't get there in time, and that he's kind of forcing a Purification Beats here because of the draft that Obey has gone for. There's so much CC potential.
Yeah, I'm mainly looking at the Athena. Athena's one of these characters that almost by herself demands to have the beads, right? And so, when you got that character on lock, it's very scary to be a jungler level 1 with Blink and no way out. So Combined effort here from NRG to look for the back camp invade. CaptainTwig on the run. Adapting with the bad beads there.
Good idea by adapting, just a little bit off on the execution itself. He knows that CaptainTwig's beads were down because emilZy just got them on the right-hand side. So all he needs to do there is use that CC immunity to make sure he doesn't get knocked up, and can then use Last Breath combo to kill him.
emilZy lifted here and might be in trouble. Big damage coming out. He's able to dash away with the Valkyrie from the sky.
Ooh.
And emilZy thanking those health pots right now. And a little bit of heal from the stance switch and the HP from the health pot as well. And a nice look for the support Amaterasu, who lives to see another day.
Big heal from the stance switch, because that's what emilZy's prioritizing. Not going to level up the mirror, the dash quite yet. You won't see Ama's leveling up dash because it doesn't increase that silence duration, but leveling up Divine Presence does increase your heal per tick, and that was absolutely the difference in that spot in order to get emilZy out of first blood range.
Also, having 25% movement speed at a relatively early part of the game is also just dumb.
Yeah, that's good.
So emilZy prioritizing the auras for good reason. So we spent a lot of the early game talking a little bit about Obey and their struggles, but it's interesting because I think it's kind of the opposite tale for NRG, who, sure, they started off this year a little bit sluggish, but it's just been a consistent train upwards. And then once we got to the summer split, they looked even better. And then the summer LAN, Ryan, I mean, you and I were there in person, and I keep talking about this intangible, this energy, no pun intended, of the guys that I haven't really seen coming out of the booths. They're just amped up. I haven't really seen Emil. I haven't really seen adapting that way since they were winning and winning and winning and winning. 3-0 rival, no problem, go home. You don't even belong in the same game as me. And then we get to fall split, and they get 4-0'd their 8th place or 6th place.
Through the first 2 sets, and now they've got a tough one up against Obey, who has historically done very well against them, at least in the last split or so. I feel like NRG is going to feel pressure during this set, and it's not only because of that rough start, where the very slight meta changes, but ones that are noticeable. The difference in your buffs now needing a lot of different kind of hoops to jump through for speed buff, let's say, and purple buff being buffed up, and minion XP changes, supports now if you're the lowest level, you're getting increased shared XP coefficient. Things like that are small but noticeable to competitive players, and whether NRG kind of got in their own heads about that, or I don't know, maybe Yammyn's cooking wasn't great that week in the Spain
Yes, it was.
house.
Don't do that.
Maybe he tried some new recipes, and it wasn't exactly working for him.
There's no way Yammyn is a bad cook, but keep going.
I feel like NRG had a bad week, and I'm not that worried about it if I'm an NRG fan.
Same.
However, should they lose this one, I'm starting to get concerned.
maniaKK is a little concerned right now, surrounded by 3 opposing jerseys. CaptainTwig puts an end to the Chang'e. Adapting shows up. Too little, too late for him and the mid lane Chernobog. And so Obey Alliance will be the first team on the board, up 1,700 gold already. And only 500 or 600 of that is from First Blood, folks. So Obey were already just doing a better job in the farm department, making things happen.
This left side has been owned to Obey Alliance. Just the nature of the matchup, Ram versus Anua. Of course, Ram is going to end up getting that pressure. maniaK's had the majority of the lane under control, but all it takes is one gank from Twig because maniaKK is up against a Sobek, a magical damage dealer in lane. He's not going to build physical defense or also risk getting poked out a little bit too much. So he has to go Genji's, which means that Twig 72 transformations hit him for the entirety of his health bar, it felt like, towards the end.
Adapting, pulling the old Lazes. Surprise, I'm actually here. But that is a Sobek, so it's a lot of damage to cut through. The new ultimate will help, and maniaKK will find a little with an ultimate of his own, but no tower dive just yet for the level 9 and 10 jungler and solo, respectively.
Seems a little bit weird for Adapting to spend that much time on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot up for him to do. Was still soaking minion XP from that distance, so it's not like he's not getting any farm at all. It was just a slow burn of XP and gold from there. Now the full commit on Xaliea was they were trying to get it in before that physical protection came through, because just like what I was talking about for maniaKK, Xaliea is going to be going for magical defense right off the rip, but that's the difference between a mage in the solo lane and a guardian, in that the Sobek is much more resilient to a gank in that sort of state.
Yeah, maniaKK just doesn't have the natural stats, the natural statuals, the nat stats. There we go. You like
There
that
we
one?
got there.
You like that?
Not for how much effort it took.
Nah, man. But now I have it permanently in the wheelhouse.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
just one go through.
So bring that up again. Actually.
Bring what up again?
The solo lane matchup.
Oh yeah, it's Sobek versus Chang'e.
One of the biggest differences here is that Chang'e as a mage not going to have the same nat stats as Xaliea on the Guardian Sobek. So not able to just really have the same resiliency as the opposition because of the lack of nat stats.
I was fine with it through the first run through, and then
You didn't like the double back?
You kind of shoved it in my face.
I had to.
You didn't?
I mean, it's very much like the performance moment, right?
No.
When you open the bow in Zelda and then you have to use the bow to kill the boss.
Sure.
It's the same mentality.
You got that bow lying around, by the way? The one you were just talking about? Just asking.
Yeah, I do.
Cool.
I do, actually. Obey Alliance now. Looking for their moment of opportunity. But right now, if I'm Obey, I'm chilling. I'm hanging out. I'm not doing anything necessarily different right now. The late game prowess that I have with my Ram and my Freya and even my Erlang Shen, I am absolutely cruising. Yammyn's going to be scary. And Emil, I'm really not that scared of a new WA, to be honest with you. Although I will admit that she becomes a powerhouse in the late game. She's a manageable powerhouse. I think that PrettyPriMe, Ataraxia, iRaffer, this is a team that if you let us get to the late game, we become unmanageable. So if I'm Obey Alliance, yeah, this is cool, calm, and collected, and I'm totally kosher with that. If I'm NRG, I need to start making a move.
I agree with you to a point where I do think NRG's late game team fight can be really, really potent with this Chang'e because no one on Obey is going to be able to match that sustain that NRG is going to get from their solo laner. But man, Obey's 5-on-5 team fight is so good. They don't want to take fights where Yammyn can use that Chernobog ultimate to affect it and bring numbers at NRG's advantage. They need to group up and do things like this.
EmilZy going to be grouped up on and lose half of his life bar already. Yammyn from the north, adapting from the east, and EmilZy down here in the south. Gets double taunted. CaptainTwig looking good right there. iRaffer waiting out in front, forcing the ultimate out of the support. Amaterasu. Not going to be done just yet, and... Alright, this is a mess.
Sloppy. Huge ultimate, though, from maniaKK hits 3. That'll get beads out from Ataraxia and the ult from Prime.
maniaKK was ready, but the team wasn't. Team was not ready to go. Yammyn reignitions, and PrettyPriMe is the one sticking the key in EmilZy.
Nice.
Down goes the support player for Obey Alliance, and Yammyn goes up, and he goes down. Ataraxia picks up kill number 3 for Obey Alliance, and that should open the door wide open for the gold tier.
Man, you called it, though. That was ugly team fight from both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, Obey, iRaffer is still getting taunts that the team is not ready for a lot of the time. Now, in that situation, he taunts EmilZy straight into a Sobek pluck, which is a good initiation. But at the same time, Prime is looking elsewhere. He was looking at adapting, I believe, who got him with the whoop and forced out his purification beads, and then turned towards EmilZy, where if Obey knows that that's coming and that's communicated or listened to better, it's one or the other, then someone can step in front of EmilZy and at least force out the ultimate at that point, and likely end up killing him because of the damage that you have in that team fight. However, with EmilZy's itemization of only Hunter's Garb, the fact that he's getting plucked into everybody is giving him 6% damage mitigation. And this is a really smart pickup by him because he knows he's going to end up getting focused. That passive ends up being really, really strong, up to 9% of damage mitigation, which is an awful lot.
Yeah, just a little bit. Plus, he's got the Tims on as well, 21 prods coming out from that in addition to the nonsense from the Oni Hunter's Garb. I'm laughing. Ryan pointed out my footwear.
Yeah, Tom's wearing Tims.
The reinforced greaves, okay?
Sure. Do you own any Toms?
Toms?
Yeah.
No.
But you're a Tom.
I'm THOM.
You own any Thoms?
Nice knock up on a maniaKK. Xaliea in some trouble on the right-hand side. He's going to be stunned out, find the dash in the right-hand exit. Now adapting with a zigzag on top of PrettyPriMe. Ryan's the worst person ever, and adapting, going to find the exit on the south side. Pyromancer started by Yammyn. It looks like NRG might have this one.
iRaffer close enough to contest. Probably just going to look for a little reach steal, but whooped at the perfect time by PrettyPriMe. Not enough to reset Pyro. That still goes NRG's way, but Xaliea has teleported back and is looking to pick a fight.
NRG making sure that they can kind of bridge the gap as far as where their wounds are concerned. Not letting Obey get too far ahead. This is actually a great spot for NRG to collapse on their opposition. And that's why Emil's ulting. He wants to get the vision to make sure there's no surprises. Now here's emilZy with a two-person stun. Xaliea avoids one of it. Rom's in the air. He's going to land right now. That brings Chernobog to the left side of the fight. Right side of the fight being dominated by mid lane PrettyPriMe. But it's emilZy that takes one down. 2 for 1 so far. As Yammyn makes himself known, cuts down his ex-teammate iRaffer. And adapting now, looking to lock the croc.
Such a split fight again from Obey. Another whoop, but again it's onto emilZy, who wants to be the one who's absorbing all of these cooldowns and really has done so all game long. Obey is just on 3 different planets during that team fight. Twig, Prime, and Xaliea on a target on the right. No one is helping Ataraxia. He's in truly no man's land in the middle of that team fight. And iRaffer gets isolated on the left, where that should have been an easy understanding that that's exactly where Yammyn and emilitoo are coming from. So, or mostly emilitoo, Yammyn ulted in. Obey looking very split today. And this is kind of in stark contrast to what we saw from them in week 1, where it looked like they were finally getting on the same page. I don't even know that they're in the same library.
I mean, we were consistently complimenting their ability to crowd control in unison and find the right moments, and the team fights looked like they were choreographed in week number 1, excuse me.
Yes, yes.
I think
decides he doesn't want it.
We're all waiting to see just how mad can it. Well, so in comms, I wonder how that went.
Yo, can I have this? Yo, can I get that? Yo,
No.
can I get that?
No, that's maniaKK saying, I'm going to take your speed. And Kenneth going, if you do, I'm leaving the game.
And maniaKK thinking about calling that bluff.
Yeah, I think maniaKK gave it a solid 1-2 and was like, would Kenneth actually do so? And then adapting goes, there's new raids in RuneScape.
Ooh,
and then maniaKK says,
over.
I'm leaving. Please take this.
Yeah, it's yours. Relax, okay?
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to hang out and fish, dude.
And in adapting's defense, there's good reason that he ends up taking the speed, although he already has one. And that's that now that speed timer is refreshed, meaning that he'll have it for when the next speed buff spawns on Obey Alliance's side of the map. So it makes it easier for him to get in, steal that speed buff, and keep the train going.
Yep.
Speed buffs.
Polynomicon built here for Freya. I love looking at the, she's a different character, and so I want to keep a close eye on sort of her build path and where everything works out, because we've seen a couple of different builds come out from a couple of different Freyas. But this Poly seems to be one of the ways that people are really agreeing and enjoying.
This is, I think, the best way to build Freya right now, because she is very mana hungry. When you've got that ranged auto attacks turned on in the late game, you're going to use an awful lot of mana, and you won't have that ability to go in and use your melee stance in order to regen it very quickly, quite as safely. So the Book of Thoth is a great pickup. It's converting your mana into power. Polynomicon already works beautifully off the whoop. That's what gives you your one-shot potential with your 2-1 combo plus the poly proc, and it's giving you mana, which converts into more power off of Book of Thoth. So I think it's exactly the way to go. You can go Book of the Dead in the late game if you need some extra survivability, but Freya oftentimes shouldn't need that quite as much because it's kill or be killed more often than not.
Yeah, it's similar to a Zeus thought process.
Now, Zeus doesn't have the ability to take himself out of combat or take his enemies out of combat. So I think it's a little bit more worthwhile picking up on Zeus because you don't have an option in order to get in and out. With Freya, you can build more power, and that gives you some more survivability because it gives you more kill potential off of Valkyrie's discretion. Though, to be fair, Book of the Dead is still really good power in the late game. 100 power plus mana, which is converted into power off Book.
Gold Fury right now brought down to about 2/3 of HP. emilZy going to be lifted. And just his presence alone will force Obey out of here. Looking pretty clean as they tie the game, now down less than 1,000 gold. NRG with vision and sort of point priority around this Gold Fury location as well. But it looks like Obey are still in the neighborhood. Neither team is really left. You can see each team kind of, yeah, I'm in lane, but those players are mentally at the Gold Fury, right? We see Xaliea and PrettyPriMe. Yeah, I'm not near the Gold Fury, but they are very much here. There's an all-out brawl coming, and you can kind of feel the calm before the storm. Immediately going to start things up, isolate PrettyPriMe. Sobek's not going to be aggressive there. Time to fall back. Xaliea not being able to do what he wants to. Adapting now in the middle. PrettyPriMe separates himself by going into the sky, but is already relatively low.
Ataraxia can't find those snipes a little bit too far away as Yammyn whooped up and immediately going to go even higher up into that living nightmare, it looks like, and now lands back down right in the thick of the team fight as Obey is able to escape towards that top left.
Oh my goodness, EmilZy with a perfect dash there. I don't know if y'all caught it. NRG forcing Obey into the back line. EmilZy dash silences a Sobek dash before he can pluck his teammate.
Pretty good.
Oh my goodness. And no part of that was a mistake, Mike.
Gold Fury down to half. Xaliea has teleported back in as Twig blinks.
here.
4-man taunt. Gold Fury
This
still
is
getting
steal.
low. NRG still gets it.
Not able to take it away. Obey Alliance just surprising me at every turn. CaptainTwig gets blown up like a stick of dynamite. And Yammyn, the one with the plunger. Ataraxia here on the run. And EmilZy slowly chasing him down. But I'm not sure how much damage he's going to do here, folks.
Not sure how slowly it is either. Prime isolated and brought down. NRG willing to commit at that point because who cares if they get gold off of that objective. And that's the sort of energy that we saw during the summer finals that got them that summer finals victory, is the understanding that we will win this team fight, commit to the objective. Because how many times do we see teams bait a fight around Gold Fury, but them dropping it at 30% is enough leeway for the enemy team to get away. You let the fish that brought them in off the hook. Instead, let them swallow it hook, line, and sinker, and then yank them from there. You just get to pull them your way and take it wherever you want.
Now this is some NRG audacity. Just pulling the big boy right here. Xaliea stuck out. The ROM shots, not good enough. They'll just help. And NRG go ahead, secure the Fire Giant. And that's a big person call. That is a big person call. Because that is similar to what you said about the Gold Fury. Hey guys, we're gonna do this. And I think NRG's mindset there is if Obey 5-man commits onto the Fire Giant, who cares, we're better than them.
Exactly. And it's also a sort of a process of like you're forcing them to go against what they would normally do. Where the first Gold Fury, you're conditioning them. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
You're conditioning them because the first Gold Fury is like, well, we contested, but they kind of wanted us to contest, so let's back off here. Oh wait, they did it. All right, well, now I'm dead. You know, it's that same sort of mind games that NRG is also just keeping the tempo up. And that's something that I've talked about a lot and historically, is that whenever you are playing against a really good team, they don't give you any time. They don't give you any time to think. It's the NFL equivalent of you get an interception, you immediately throw it deep because you're trying to get them before they're mentally ready. You never let them rest. And so that's critical where, okay, we had a huge team fight. This decided the course of the game potentially. They're talking about relic timers. Let's get back on it. Don't let them think about what to do. Don't let them set themselves and force them into another perfect decision where if they don't make this perfectly, then we'll likely win the game off of it. And it's so hard to go back to back to back to back on finding all these answers. It's nearly impossible.
It's so much easier to paint this picture in traditional sports where players are getting tired and sweating and there's the physical element of it, but that mental side as well. I mean, think back to your own games in ranked and comms where you guys get wiped and then you guys are like, all right, how do we fix this? What do we do? Now imagine the enemy team is already doing the second step of their game plan while you're sitting there going, so how do we adjust?
Think of it this way. You have a big fight. What do you do? Like, think about it afterwards. What do you do in the next 45 seconds? Nothing, usually. It's so hard to adjust.
Right now, PrettyPriMe getting the screws turned on him in the backside, forcing the ultimate nice and early. Adapting gets cut down, and Obey Alliance start this team fight in their direction. 5-on-4, but NRG doesn't seem to care. Again, objective prioritization. And the two-time world champions walk away with the left side Phoenix in their pockets. And that's all they really want. One by one, he's going to go for the red buff. And that's another thing that I've seen NRG do as a unit. Prioritize the red buff, sometimes over tier 1 towers, because the red buff, especially in the latter portions of the game, so incredibly important.
Gives you a big power buff, takes that power buff away and off the table from the opposition. Plus, red buff is constantly respawning. You can get it over and over again if you have that timer. Once you get a tower, it's gone. That's the only gold you'll get from it. So especially in the early game, if you've got an opportunity to push a tier 1 tower or steal away a red buff, oftentimes I think it is just outright correct to steal that red instead. And earlier on, I was talking a lot about this team composition for Obey Alliance and how their CC potential is phenomenal and their team fight can be really good. But NRG's done such a good job of playing around that by going in and staggered, but not so staggered that it's just the conveyor belt effect that I talk about a lot.
Sure.
It's more about you take this CC, I'll take this CC, that frees up this third guy. And it's really good teamwork from NRG. Plus, Ama's just super hard to fight against in team fighting phase. Chang'e is absurdly good when we get to this 27-minute mark when the team has a lead.
Everybody's moving 25% faster. They're able to get to the back line that much quicker. emilZy zoning out 4. Make that 5 separate players. Tier 2 tower going to crumble. And NRG retreat, reassess. Fire Giant has fallen off now. They're going to look for a little bit of a more calculated approach. Brains over brawn has been NRG's approach to game number 1. A little bit of both, actually. Let me check myself and I'll rectify that statement. Because we have seen the all-out brawn on the dangling of the objectives. Come here and fight us because I'm better at hitting you than you are better at hitting me. And that's when they were even gold. Right. That was NRG just saying, all right, dude, we got adapting and you don't. Let's go. All right, let's see what happens. And they won the team fights. But now watching this calculation is a different side that we don't always get to see.
Adapting, beads, and mantle proc gone from him, but NRG still on the run. Obey likely should just chase this out, but you never can against the Rama.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, this is a normal game against a team that doesn't have Ama support. You chase this out every day. That's the best fight you're going to get, knowing that adapting is 15% health. But with an Amaterasu, you're never going to catch him. So instead, Obey heads towards fire, but adapting's going to be here really, really soon.
Nice block. maniaKK could be in trouble. He's going to be able to walk away, no problem. PrettyPriMe again finds himself behind the 8-ball, half HP before the fight even begins here, Ryan. And adapting from the back line, trying to make sure nobody else is in trouble.
Xaliea still in trouble, though. It's isolated and brought down by adapting. And Yammyn, Waxing Moon, just catches the edge of iRaffer, but that's enough to force him and the rest of Obey Alliance back. Should be a second Fire Giant here for NRG without Obey Alliance's solo laner to be there. This Freya selection is so oppressive from ahead and has great comeback potential. But when you have Freya constantly backpedaling, constantly using Valkyrie's discretion as a way to just buy time and not be a damage output, it feels awfully underwhelming, doesn't it? I mean, Prime is 4th overall in the damage charts. And while if you aren't getting a kill off of Whoop 1-2 combo, then you're not going to be able to impact the team fight. Because that is all 3 of your normal abilities. Yes, it does an obscene amount of damage. That's not the argument. The argument is, if I full combo someone with Zeus and they aren't dead, I am. Yeah. And that's the same way with Freya. If I use the whole kit as Scylla and they're still healthy, I'm dead and didn't do my job. And Freya, yes, she does a lot of damage, but so do all of those burst mages. That if you use 1, 2, 3 on one person, they should be taking a lot of damage. And that's what I think teams are starting to realize is, yes, it's going to sting whenever Freya uses the full kit. But what happens if one person eats the full kit and then is able to switch out, tag out, now we dive her with someone else? She's got nothing at that point. Her auto attacks, yeah, they do something, but not as much as what the rest of her kit provides. It really does all center on the polyproc in that first ability. So it's difficult to contest whenever those abilities are down. Freya's much more like a traditional mage than she was in the past.
NRG really able to get to the back line and punish PrettyPriMe for nothing. Kind of feels like, one of those days things just aren't going your way. PrettyPriMe is pushed out of the conversation each and every time. Rom forced into an early ultimate. maniaKK will be lifted, but that's about it. NRG get the left side Phoenix and refocus on the mid.
This Lotus Crown and Rod of Asclepius combo for maniaKK is just too much. And Prime is also playing a character that doesn't really build anti-heal particularly well. Divine Ruin certainly could be an option for him, but not particularly appetizing.
Right.
Xaliea could build Pestilence, maybe a Divine Ruin, but he would definitely get blown up if he were to go for that. So Pestilence and Sickening Strike is your best anti-heal. That's not up that often. You really don't have a good way to spread it throughout the team fight. Another weakness of putting Freya in the mid lane is that you really lack AoE damage, which is why this heavy CC comp doesn't work as well from behind.
emilitoo tossed out the fog. There's going to be the taunt onto EmilZy. CaptainTwig on the back line, just getting blown up before he can do much of his job. emilitoo served up, but Xaliea on a hair. EmilZy, is he going to chase him down? The answer is no. Mid lane Phoenix unscathed just yet. Prime isolated. Meanwhile, Obey Alliance doing a great job playing D, but ultimately do take too much damage. Have to fall back, leaves the tier 3 tower. The Phoenix, and that's going to mean NRG have 2 of the 3 major objectives guarding the enemy base.
Look at how even all the health bars were there from NRG. And some people will look at that and say, oh man, that was a close team fight. We almost had him. Everyone was half HP. When the reality is, NRG was in complete control of that team fight. They were dictating where that damage was going. emilZy can take this amount and still be totally fine. maniaKK will take this. emilitoo stayed untouched on the backside. Had to use both relics, but didn't take anything off his health bar. And NRG was never worse for wear because of it. Easily able to separate Obey from their objective and take it away.
2 things happened that I really liked. There was NRG realized that Obey had miserable target prioritization, and because of that, they were just able to lazy Susan their players around. Like you mentioned, emilZy would tank first, realize he was taking too much damage, so he would switch, and then adapting would take the brunt of it, and that's how everybody wound up half HP. And also the patience for the objectives. A lot of teams in these Phoenix Sieges get themselves into trouble by trying to push up too soon. And what NRG did really well was like, all right, we're not killing anybody. And at that point, a lot of teams just say, screw it, let's rush. NRG said, we're not killing anybody, but we can force them back to their base. And that's what they did. And then once everybody was in the fountain, down the Phoenix went.
emilZy again, straight into the backline and gets ults from Prime and from Ataraxia. Now he might pay this time around, but look at how spread Obey is all focused on emilZy as their last Phoenix falls because Xaliea can't hold off 4 people by himself. emilZy, in my mind, is MVP of this game already.
Yeah.
He has been unanswerable on the backside. He has taken every cooldown, only died twice, forced out how many ultimates, how many relics, has split these team fights near flawlessly. maniaKK's hit big ult after big ult, sure, but emilZy has gotten everything started from NRG. I'm
3,000% with you. I think that emilZy has just had the absolute game. This is this is the game that you put on your highlight reel, and you're like, hey, look, I did the support things. This is me playing my position. I don't care what my 1, 2, and 5 is a yawn fest of a slash line. But his team only has 7 kills. He's been a part of 6 out of 7. I'm down. His play, even on the stuff that has been able to hit the scoreboard, sure, but the intangibles have just been out of control.
Twig uses that sprint, or no, he had beads, but used his transformation. It was the sprint out of iRaffer.
What does adapting think he's doing up there?
Pushing that fire wave in, making sure that there's simultaneous pressure on left and mid so that it isn't as easy for Obey to, if they had been back, be able to defend that left Phoenix and mid lane, but Obey was kind of going for broke on that right-hand side, which isn't a bad call. It seems a little bit odd because it guarantees they lose their left Phoenix, but I like to think of it as their percent chance of winning from this exact spot is less than 2%. Their exact chance of winning if they can get a pick around Fire Giant, lose left Phoenix, but maybe kill 3 people of energy, get some towers and reset the fight from there, 3.5%. So a little bit better than what they would have had they sat around and just accepted that, sure, we'll get left side Phoenix up, and then it'll go down as soon as energy feels like knocking it down again. It's a risk, yes, but the best case scenario does put you in a much better position to win than your best case scenario turtling under Phoenix now.
And so 36 minutes in here, folks. 13 kills, and NRG have the better half of that one. The gold lead, let's just say energy. Yammyn, though, could be suffering here. Dashing the wall, waiting for emilZy to show up.
Okay.
And his solo laner from behind. And Yammyn takes down Ataraxia. It's a 5-on-4. And judging from the state of the base, this could be it.
Move on to adapting, but Prime gonna let him off the hook.
And again, emilZy walking right in front of him before he comes down from the
who's gonna do damage to emilZy at this point?
Yeah.
No one. Prime hasn't been able to do effective damage to emilZy all game long.
Change.
Best damage he's gotten was a 10% max.
Big taunt coming out from iRaffer there, setting his team up, but his team not really wanting to be set up, it seems. CaptainTwig going to take down Yammyn nonetheless, and CaptainTwig in some trouble. emilitoo puts him down for love potion number 9. Titan still relatively healthy until Obey have to be pushed away. NRG pushing in, have HP on the objective already. iRaffer stunned out, and that be that. Obey Alliance, watch as their Titan falls. 17,000 gold in the lead after 37 minutes of play, and NRG take game 1.
It seemed pretty simple to me. I mean, NRG was pretty methodical in that one. I think they were absolutely ready for Prime to pick up that Freya, and I feel like this Ama pick was exclusively designed to make that life difficult for PrettyPriMe on that character. Because when you see an Ama coming at you with Dazzling Offensive, as a Freya, what do? I mean, you can't walk away fast enough. You can't whoop her out of it.
Right.
So you either have to use relics preemptively, expecting there to be follow-up, or you need to use your best escape tool, which is your ultimate, in response to not take the damage and get stunned. You have to do one, and otherwise you're going to take a ton of damage and likely end up falling. And emilZy was just able to dictate those team fights so easily because of it.
The Serqet also was a big part of that. I think the ability for Serqet, even without the blink, by the way, Aegis and beads, the Serqet's ability to leapfrog over the front line, get to that back line, whether it was Freya or otherwise. Basically, NRG came in here understanding you can take Freya, and we know how to beat it.
Especially with this Erlang in the jungle, right? Because let's say it's Serqet for CaptainTwig, he just hops on for the ride with Serqet, and then there's enough damage ticking on emilZy that he just dies as soon as Dazzling Offensive is over. Erlang kills you via CC, and setting up for his other characters, you can't get CC'd while you're diving like that. So you're allowed to do that without any real recourse. The Sobek pick is designed to set you up for the damage, but if the damage is already forced out, that won't work. This draft was near flawless from NRG. It was awesome.
Great job so far. The draft was great. That's teamwork. But what individual shone the most? That's the question we posed to you guys out there in Mixer chat. Was it the jungle Serqet? Was it the emilZy like Ryan and I was talking about? Or was it just the Hunter? You guys really like what Emil was doing on his new by the way.
He did press 4 a lot that game.
Top damage.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Let's break it down on the desk.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ryan. Finch here, along with Anatoly. And I agree. I think that that was a great job pressing 4 there by emilitoo on that new Did a lot of damage.
You know, much like great nuas of the world, emilitoo hangs with the best of them.
So you have it on instant cast, right? You don't press 4 then click. You just press 4.
That's too much work. That's too much work.
you just go straight up. But that is going to be the victory for NRG there, at least in game 1. And I don't know about you, Toly, but it didn't feel like one big moment sort of stood out at me. That was kind of NRG, I feel like, whittling away at Obey the entire game. And Obey never really having a way to sort of slow them down. It was relatively even early, but no team ran away with it, I feel like, until like towards the late.
It was the Gold Fury call that was perfect out of NRG. They were baiting out Obey Alliance a little bit, using the Chang'e sustain from maniaKK to be able to extend that encounter a little bit longer than normal, and as a result, they find the Gold Fury, 2 more additional kills, and NRG immediately after, no hesitation, switched to the right side of the map, and I think after getting that Fire Giant was just unstoppable.
It really was. That's kind of what I feel like kind of opened up the floodgates, but you know, they sort of were able to eventually grab that victory for themselves. And it sounds like the one who often got the ball rolling, who was often that initiating factor for them, is the one selected as the MVP, emilZy, on the Amaterasu, getting it done, at least on the side of everyone out there in the Mixer chat. We're taking a look at some of adapting plays there as well, and I agree. He also had an excellent game for himself. getting everything going for the squad.
And it was just a collective team effort. The Chernobog from Yammyn was able to do work for NRG. And when you're playing Amaterasu Chang'e, you're supposed to be able to definitely win that late game, having the sustain from Chang'e, which allowed them to win that goal fear fight, then having the mobility to dive the Freya was the key to the success. Freya, very popular pick, and when you have a Serqet, that went tanky as well, Mantle of Discord, Witchblade, Talisman of Energy, very easy for these two individual gods to dive the Freya.